Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nuance Needed podcast Substack episodes. I'm Amanda.
And this is Sam.
You're going to lead us.
Okay. I'm actually shocked. You don't have thoughts about this.
I mean, I do have thoughts. I think what's funny, we're talking about Taylor Swift.
I know. I should have led with
talking about it.
Yeah.
I do have thoughts, but a lot of things make sense to me now. But when it came out, I was just like, oh, good.
We can put this to bed.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
I felt bad because I knew you were on your trip, and so I didn't want to bug you because I knew you were with your other friend, and I was like, she doesn't want to talk about it.
I was just like in the mountains and like I
disassociating.
Yeah, exactly.
When I saw your video on your Instagram and you were like this and throwing my phone off a cliff, I was like, I'm gonna let her have her time. I'll give you your peace, I promise. No, I know that wasn't about me. But I think for me it was twofold.
Yeah. Okay.
The two big things that came up right away. One, Halle fucking Luya for her. Yeah. Like, what an achievement.
Yes.
And the fact that the Eras tour was essentially a giant bake sale that we all contributed to.
Yeah. I didn't know that. Like,
I didn't either.
I think that's what's so interesting to me is I heard rumblings, I'm sure you did too, like a couple weeks ago, that she could buy back her masters. And
yeah. I
literally was like, if she has the opportunity to, I don't think she will. Which is really dumb. Like, why do you think that, Amanda? It's like, maybe she likes the new ones better. I think she likes this re-recording project. And like, clearly she does not.
No. Yeah. I think the second biggest thing, and of course these are like phone trees that can branch off into a bunch of others. But so the first one being like, how incredible that is, what an achievement that is, on top of what Eras was, to now have that be the meaning behind it is like insane. Yeah. Which we better get the fucking documentary. That's all I'm going to say, but whatever. And then the second part is the Easter eggs. Mm-hmm. Meaning, the entire paragraph that she dedicates to Reputation.
Yeah.
And literally starts with, I know, mm-hmm. Reputation TV.
Yeah.
I feel, I mean, you and I both know, I think I dabbled in the clowning more than you. Yeah. I think you had grieved it long before I did. I would just like have it served to my FYP and be like, we'll see. And then moved on.
Did you watch the AMAs?
I did, and it was horrible. They were so bad. I was like, what year is it?
Yeah, I heard that J-Lo was
it was so good. Bad. Sorry, it was honey, like, but no. It's time. Yeah. Like, go, please also, leave us alone.
Maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but people were so upset that she like didn't win an AMA. And like, okay, sure, because they're technically voted on, but like we had the year of Taylor Swift in 2024. Yeah. Like, I don't think
she swept. She didn't
won
need
everything. I think it's okay.
She's fine. I'm sure she probably even forgot it was the AMAs, if we're all being honest. But the AMAs were awful. Like, it was Rod Stewart, Gloria Estefan, Janet Jackson, just weird. None of the celebrities that won were really there.
Yeah.
They all like videoed in. It felt
weird.
It felt weird. It felt like something really, really bad had happened and they were trying to like play it off cool.
Yeah.
Like almost like
to not have the
boycott-ish. Yeah. Anyway, regardless. Back to Reputation. I think what it brought up for me was the whole Easter egg debacle that has been created over the years, and I think took on the most insane life through Reputation, and has had for the last, since she announced the re-releases. And it kind of made me reflective of like these expectations that we have of these celebrities. One, to be constantly producing.
Yes.
Two, to have the second they a few times play some games, have some hints leading up to something, we now have this expectation that it has to be this way. It has to be this complicated. It has to be this straightforward. And what I think is so sad about the way she laid out Reputation is all of a sudden I had this reflection of like, wow, why on God's green planet would you want to go back to that space?
Yes.
While she probably attempted it while they were navigating the breakup.
Yeah.
And I think I have the theory that the attempt at re-recording Reputation is what led to TTPD.
Wow. I do think that's an interesting theory.
I think the feelings and everything that got brought up in addition to this, you know, getting right out of the relationship with Joe, then getting into the situationship with Maddie Healy, then Travis showing up. Like, I think a lot of big feelings were coming up for her. And I think she was like, I don't even want to be doing this at a baseline. So I'm just going to dump it all into a new album.
Yeah.
And hopefully distract them.
Clearly the albums have been like breaths of air she has needed to take in between records, which I did not think about in that way before. I was very like, Midnights was created because she needed another album to round out Eras Tour that would be like new enough. But I think we also thought that before we thought she was going to do like Reputation or 1989 on the Eras Tour, right? We thought it was just going to be, I don't know, Midnights, Folklore, Evermore.
Yeah, we thought it was going to be like the pandemic, like Lover, and then moving forward.
But yeah, I think that's an interesting theory. I think also, yeah, when you look at, you know, some of the songs that were on like Midnight's Vault track, for example, of kind of like, it was definitely clear that, right, recording Speak Now, recording Red brought up a lot of, you know, old stuff that she processed through writing more songs about it. And then everyone was critical that, you know, she shouldn't be writing about John Mayer after all these years, but she needed to.
Yeah. And I think what's complicated as well is, you know, she kind of wags her finger a bit in the Reputation paragraph. I don't think very aggressively, but I think a little bit like, I've been listening and it's annoying. And I wrote a whole song about how you guys are constantly chanting more.
Yeah.
But then and I think we've had this conversation in a bonus episode about her before, where I feel torn because I'm like, but then when you're recording the Bejeweled music video in the behind the scenes, you say, I needed a spreadsheet to keep track of the amount of Easter eggs.
Yeah.
So it's like you're planting all of these seeds to have us believe that something is happening. And then you let us know that you haven't even really touched it.
Yeah.
And I bet the quarter of it isn't even really done well. Like,
I bet you she was able to do the songs. My theory is she was able to do the songs that she performed on the Eras Tour.
That's a good point.
Like, she can do Delicate. It's probably why Look What You Made Me Do was like kind of a Reputations version in The Handmaid's Tale. But
yeah, she had re-recorded it.
I don't really know what happened with that.
Yeah.
And then what else? Don't Blame Me, I think is the third one. So that's my thought, is like, because when Reputation also originally came out, I don't know if you've heard this, but there was a secret session she did that she told people this and said, you can say this. And she's kind of alluded to, like, right, it was a bait and switch album of it was very harsh and aggressive, and then it's like actually a love story, like
yeah.
And she marks it as with the ellipses. So how ready for it is ... ready for it, and then so it goes is ...
Oh.
And she told someone apparently at, you know, during the secret sessions that is the front half of the album. Like, that first part is the bait. And then the second part is like how she actually feels, the more vulnerable side.
I didn't know this.
Her more like true feelings about what was happening, versus the front side is sort of a caricature of herself.
I'm looking up the track list. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how that pans out, even just looking at the titles, like not even listening to it. I think Kate Kennedy brought this up, of this like respecting the work that she's done and what she's achieved and owning everything,
Mm-hmm.
while us feeling simultaneously disappointed in the fact that we're more likely than not going to get something that we felt we were kind of very much led to believe was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I have like this push and pull between being a fan that loves her, idolizes her, eats up everything that she puts out, can't get enough, right? Like everything that she does feels like it's just the Midas touch and incredible. But then also being like, she's just a person who's an artist and she doesn't owe us anything.
Yeah.
Like she didn't even like, she doesn't owe us an explanation for anything. She could have just had that be in a press release and call it good and we'd all move on. But then she does, I do feel like sometimes she has like a love-hate relationship with us.
Oh yeah, I think for sure.
Like she very much like, she loves us. She knows we've given her career life. She is where she is because of us. She is incredibly talented. It is very deserved. But there's plenty of talented people that never make it to that stratospheric level. But then we're annoying. And I think the reputation shit was way too overboard. The math and the predictions and the you know, tracing things back to 2007, like nobody is that unhinged.
Yeah. Well, and that's always sort of a critique of mine, of like a lot of her Easter eggs are really simple.
Yeah.
And people do this like insane math and go like her mind. And it's just like, sometimes there are coincidences, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I don't actually think that there was like theories, right, that like she was working on midnights when she was doing Lover, because the right Lover was almost called Daylight, and right there's a song called Daylight, and or New Year's Day, right? She says, "I want your midnights," and I'm just like, God, like no,
it's
like,
not that. Well, there's also a part to it where I imagine she is someone that has like a notebook with her at all times.
Right,
And
just
probably
you have an idea doesn't mean you like fully flesh it out either.
No. She could have had the midnight stories jotted down for years and then finally was like, oh, I think I kind of want to sit with this and turn this into something. Like, I think we we feed into our own toxicity around like the obsession of needing these things and like demanding them of her. And I guess I think if we're being honest, the way she worded it, I think we're going to get the rep vault in a different way. I don't think we're ever going to get the re-records.
No. I think
that's just going to be by itself. But I'm really curious what she does with the vault tracks. If those, I don't know.
I think she's going to release them. I don't know when. It sounds like debut might be first, and she did record that, and it seems as though she is going to.
She's happy with it.
Yeah. And I do think that album like could be improved upon, obviously, because she recorded it when she was like 15.
Yeah.
And I do think, like, you know, 1989, I like the vault tracks, but it didn't do a lot for me. Sonically, I prefer the regular 1989. It wasn't that different, but I think there's a difference between re-recording, you know, Fearless or the original one, or even Red, you know, you can say too, in terms of like vocal quality and stuff like that. Compared to, I think once you get past 1989, like her voice was matured and sort of is the same voice she has now. And and Reputation is such an important album to me that I do think I would have probably always really preferred. Like, I don't get as like, I knew Style was different. Long Live was not the same Long Live. Like, there were some that I was like, this isn't great. But overall, I think she did such a good job of doing them that I could like tolerate the nuances of it being different. I could see myself potentially not tolerating the difference as well in Reputation, because it is just like so important to me. So yeah.
Well, and that album felt raw.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very raw. And I
Yeah.
think in her letter, she explains she couldn't recreate that
Mm-hmm.
because she's not anywhere near the same place that she is now. I think what we're getting is that she's much more settled.
Mm-hmm.
She's much more calm. She's much more sure of herself. She's much more sure of her positioning. And
I think it also, like it's really hard to go back and relive
Yeah.
like the beginning of
the worst part of your life.
Yeah, and also I think Joe,
Yeah.
like a lot of those songs are really vulnerable, and especially with how she kind of alludes to in Lover and some on like before that she was kind of in denial about things. I think it's really hard to like earnestly sing like King of My Heart.
Yeah. That's... Well, and also it almost like if you are her and Trav seem to be in an
Like to
incredibly
sing, I want to wear a chain, like I want to wear his initials on a chain around my neck. I think that's really hard to sing and be earnest
Please
about.
don't ever become a stranger whose laugh I'd recognize anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
it also like think of being in this incredibly fulfilled, happy, stable,
Mm-hmm.
what seems to be that it is end game
Yeah.
relationship. Do you want to go back and sing about your ex?
Yeah.
No.
Especially when you've sung about him a lot.
A lot.
There are a lot
Of
albums.
And you released You're Losing Me, which was
Yeah.
very clearly about that relationship.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, it does have the illusion of like, was he just the person at the time that could get her through that season? And then she outgrew him, which I think we can all assume is what happened, or he outgrew her, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the letter, what I hated was immediately, because everybody's like, oh, like we can't clown for Reputation anymore. What do people start doing? They count the I's in this. They're like, well, what about the paper that's the second paper that's underneath the letter? And I'm like, guys, like just let it be.
But isn't the devil's advocate also like she did put 12 eyes? I'm not saying
she
that
did.
it doesn't annoy me as well. I agree.
Yeah.
But that is where she does feed into it a bit, right? Even like if
Right.
people want it, I don't know. And
I know.
And I think that's hard. I think the hard line is I think she likes to have this game with us. I think she thinks it's fun and funny. And I think she doesn't like when people get too serious about it. And it's hard on the internet to find that space of like having fun, but not.
Yeah. Well, you can't. Demanding. You have to, once you release it into the world, you have no control over how it's going to be like interpreted or dissected. And I think clearly it was never that serious.
But also, I mean, to go back to sort of what her goal, I mean, it's very clear that these re-records, we knew they were, re-recorded so that we would listen to them and devalue her work and stuff, or devalue the originals and things like that. But it's very clear to me now, that she didn't want to do them. She just kind of kept doing them. And her hope, it seems like, was to not have to finish them.
Well, and I think they were leverage.
Yes.
I think they were meant to be financial pain and leverage for the people that owned the originals. And then they eventually came to the table and said, we need to do something about these before they become obsolete, which I think they are so valuable just naturally.
Apparently she got a steal. I mean, we don't know for sure, but right, like Billboard is saying, which again, could be totally wrong, which is like about what they paid for them, which is a steal.
I was at a minimum thought that number was going to have a 5. I was like, that has to be $500 million. But
and I think, I mean, we could go into, which we don't have time for it, and we're not going into, but you know, for anyone who's like, it's not that big of a deal, like there were a lot of issues with her contract. She essentially, Scott Borchetta started the music label with her. She was like by far the biggest, if not only, real draw
on his roster.
I think based on how she talks about it, we don't know what he said to her. It sounds like she had been begging to own her masters for forever. It sounds like maybe there was some sort of loose agreement or possibility. It sounds like a lot of times people do have the ability, if they extend their contract, to be able to have something in there where if they make a couple more albums, they will be able to, you know, buy their work or get their work. So
well, because that's what she was told. She was told, for every new album you make, you get another album.
But I'm saying that I think like in more fair contracts, which exist, a lot of times it's like, if you, it's kind of like being like, I mean, I'm going to butcher this because I don't play sports or follow sports very well, but from what I can understand, it sounds like if you get signed as like a rookie, your deal is not super great. But then if you prove yourself when you go back to renegotiate your contract, you get a much, much better contract because you've proved yourself. She proved herself clearly many times over, but wasn't given the ability to sort of renegotiate her contract. And it is more industry standard these days to, if you become a very huge artist, if you then extend your contract and let's say instead of only making 3 albums, you make 6, you will then get all 6 when you leave.
Yeah.
Not just like the buyback, which keeps you trapped, right? Like she would be able to, she could have made 6 more and got all of them, but then she would not own the next 6 she made, which is an impossible deal to ever be in.
There's no way out of it. And the worst part of it was, behind her back, as she presents it, they were sold to Scooter Braun.
Yeah.
And he is someone who had been quite cruel to her, like on a public setting. And I think what I would assume, they did not have a great private relationship. Yeah. And so she felt extra betrayed. Right. That Scott, out of everybody, would choose that person in kind of a hoodwinked situation to sell them to. Yeah. And I mean, it's a monumental feat that is like in terms of like business, that is something that could easily have like a multi-part documentary attached to it of like the impacts of that. Game. Yes. And I think how she altered the industry and the expectations within the industry. And I think a lot of artists who were big but hadn't achieved that level of fame, I think a lot of people just accepted it. Well, I know
Olivia Rodrigo, because of everything Taylor talked about, Olivia Rodrigo negotiated her contract and she owns her masters.
She owns her masters.
Yeah. And I think a lot of other people, I don't know about a lot of, but I know it's becoming more common. So.
Yeah, I think it's a tremendous feat, and I think it speaks a lot to her business acumen and I think also like her freaking work ethic. Like to now understand that Eras was the thing she had to do to build up the capital needed to just be like, I just have to buy them.
I mean, to me also, what is fascinating about this too, in terms of understanding Eras Tour, is I remember we talked a lot, and everyone on the internet was talking a lot about how there wasn't like a super huge end to Eras. If you remember, she started selling debut and rep merch on Eras. I don't know if you remember that. And I thought that was very strange.
Yeah.
Because everything else had been waiting for like Speak Now came out. And then there was a Speak Now merch in 1980. And when it was, I think it was after 1989 came out, maybe in the beginning of 2024, it was like rep and debut. She was selling all merch. Every single era had merch now. And I thought that was so strange. And then also, if you think about how, I always said it made no sense for her not to wrap up the re-recording project when she was on Eras. Why on God's earth didn't she just release rep, right, in January, and then, December release debut? And why would you then like do the whole book and just say, see you in the next era? Like, this clearly had been very close to being negotiated, I think, for a year. And it makes so much sense why she was like, I'm fucking done.
Yeah, I think once she realized they were coming to the table in earnest, I think she was like, just get rid of all of it. We had this merch anyway. Put it out. Yeah. I don't even want to do this. Because I also think too, like, think of how you don't want to have to re-record that work.
Yeah.
You made that work and perfected it at that time in your artistry because you loved it.
Yeah.
And I think this was something she never wanted to do. She just was kind of like, why are you putting me in this position where I now have to do all this extra work just to own what is in fact mine?
Well, yeah, in that Time article, she did talk about how hard it was. And she said it's like redoing homework.
Yes, it's very hard. And yeah, I because a deal like this does not get negotiated in a month.
Yeah.
It's not even 6 months. I'm with you. I think it was probably over a year that there was back and forth of how to do this.
We can look up when did Scooter sell his?
Ooh, was that like 2023? 22?
No, this is actually really, really long ago in November 2020.
Oh, how much did he sell it for?
Let's see. He only sold Swift's Capital to Shamrock. Okay, so in 2020, he sold Swift's catalog to Shamrock. The move reportedly offered the singer a chance to become an equity owner, but she refused. So I think it was like, I do think I remember a little bit about this. That I think she could have been an owner, but I think Scooter would have still gotten royalties even after she bought it. And I think that was why it was a no-go.
Yeah.
So it must have been, the past couple of years that they've just been like, negotiating and getting it so that he wouldn't be tied to it at all.
Well,
but
and
I did hear that. What did I hear? I did hear that Shamrock was very clear in the beginning that they wanted to make a deal with her and were happy to make a deal with her. And I think there was very good, clearly part of the negotiation was her talking, I think, positively about them. And I think that was actually a very smart business move of them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That from the get-go, they're like, hey, we're here. Do you, that's why they bought it from Scooter in the first place. They knew what they were.
Yeah. And I think Scooter, I think that there was probably some contract that Scooter would get a certain amount when he first sold to Shamrock, and then enough time passed that he, was completely dissolved of it.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens next, because I can't decide. And I think it's like a even 50-50 split. I think there's a 50-50 chance she's going to go away.
Yeah.
She's going to go live life. She's going to go marry Trav. She's going to have a baby. She's going to or even not have a baby, but just live a quiet life with this achievement behind her. Or I think she's going to move forward with work in a new way. I think
she might just be messy with it.
Yeah.
Which I would like. Just put out, kind of like Evermore Folklore vibes.
Yeah.
Of just put out an album because I wrote all this and I feel like it, and bam.
And this is what I want to do.
That's what I hope, selfishly. But she has a right to retire. But wasn't there was an article that came out, I think it was after the Super Bowl, from a reputable source that said she was working on new music. And I think Travis had kind of alluded to it or something like that.
Well, too. And just two-ish months ago, I think there was that Swedish violinist that said, he was like, oh yeah, I've worked with Taylor Swift on some songs. And what was funny was nobody said no, it just all disappeared. Everything just went away. Yeah. There was no there's no truth to it, right? Tree planting stories. It just stopped getting talked about. Okay. So, but I also think, she said a couple times at Eras, I have no, I'm going to be doing this for a long time. Yeah, she has
said that. I think she has a right to change her mind. And I think that is what's hard sometimes, right? Is we hold her to a standard, but don't allow her to change her mind. Sometimes, right, is we say oh, she said the crowd was chanting more, like we can't ask for more.
Yeah.
But then she feeds into it, and maybe I think she probably goes back and forth. And some days she loves being like super famous and all of the, riffraff. And then I think like a human, like then people are terrible to her, or she has stalkers that break into her house, or people say, shitty things online. And then she's like, leave me alone.
Well, I feel, and I've actually felt this since Travis showed up on the scene, which is it feels like she's living normal now, meaning she has like a stable personal life.
Yeah.
But she's still going out.
Yeah.
We see her at restaurants. We see her. She's not hiding anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like it was when she was with Joe, which is when you saw them, they were like running to the car under an umbrella and like didn't want to be seen and you didn't know anything. Like I think because I was incredibly surprised that like the day after she drops this news that she gets the masters back, she's at dinner with Selena being photographed.
I think she planned those two things, though.
Like
I think that there's a difference between her getting caught at brunch in Philly, that was clearly a fan photo, and choosing to walk out of the front of Vita Carota.
That's true.
So I think she chooses whether she goes out the back door or the front door. And I think, I think that she does seem to, her preferred method seems to be, since she's not with Joe, when she had like, and she got off of her like, I don't know, not nonstop paparazzi walking, I think, for the first couple months as like a fuck you to Joe.
Yeah.
Or maybe to also, but she uses pap walks, I think, as a strategic move when she has press to like garner up more things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think it was timed very well of she went out right before and she went out the day after, and there's like press sort of around that. I also find it actually very interesting that no one's brought up that Vita Carota was the first place she went to when she got out of the relationship with Joe, right? It was like fresh out of the slammer. And it's almost like similar vibes to right before we found this out, she went to Vita Carota again, and it's kind of like freedom, fresh out of the slammer of like, I own my work now and I'm free.
Wow. I hadn't made that connection. I actually, when I was in New York, I ate at the restaurant that was across the street from Vita Carota.
I'm sure it's impossible to get into.
Yeah, I'm sure. It was I went to a place called Boucherie, which was absolutely delicious. And I didn't realize it's like, so it's in the West Village, and across the street, there's like the block like points up. It's almost like a diamond. And Via Carota was just like around the corner from there.
So cool. Other thoughts about Taylor?
I'm just interested to see where it goes next.
Yeah.
I'm interested what she's going to do. If just the rep vault will never see the light of day, and that's just been.
I think we will. I don't think she would have said it.
No,
I don't think she would have said it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, well, babe, like, how soon? Like that.
But that's where she plays into it too, and that's the I think.
Like I
think she knows the art of what would I say? Anticipation.
Yeah, like I think I'm kind of tired of the you drop hints but then nothing. Like that's I'm a little.
I don't play anymore.
It's kind of that's where it feels like gamey to me, and it feels like I'm a pawn in like our capitalist queen's game, which like I don't have to play it. So like I guess there's a part of it. It's like, well, I don't have to pay attention. I can just go about and live my life. But yeah, the like, unless you really want it, do you really want to hear it? Like, what do you want? The 12 eyes and then the paper underneath, and like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if we get TS12 or if we get those, if she turns those into something.
I can't even imagine what TS12 is going to be like. I truly have 0.0% thoughts.
No, I don't think any of us are going to know what to expect of that.
So interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not obsessed with So high school and stuff like that. So I wonder. I know that's like shitty of me to say.
The Alchemy
she
is
needs
good.
to be tortured to. I think The Alchemy is about
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Where she's talking about football?
I know, but it all seems like a metaphor or a red herring because have you looked up the lyrics? It's like, hey, you, what if I told you I'm back? Like, she's like, I'm back. Let me look up the lyrics.
I'm going to look them up too. Yeah, the hospital was a drag. Worst sleeps that I ever had. I circled you on a map. Haven't come around in so long.
That's what I can't get over. It sounds like she mashed. She had this song, and then she wanted it to be about Travis, so she mashed it into this.
Oh,
and was
God.
like, okay, I'm gonna put the chorus in all about this. It's literally so funny how it's like Maddie, chorus, Travis.
Oh,
Maddie,
do you know what?
Chorus,
These blokes warm the benches.
And then, this is interesting, right? He jokes that it's heroin, but this time with an E. Like, I could hear Travis saying that, right?
Yeah.
As in, like, heroin versus, like, Maddie was a heroin addict.
Mm-hmm.
But
blokes is so, like, British coded that it's but I see what you mean.
Like, the sign on your heart says it's still reserved for me. You guys didn't you didn't know he had a sign on his heart. You didn't know who he was.
That is the wildest situationship in the world to me. But maybe if I was her friend and in her inner circle, it would make sense. But I like
I literally have it that she was writing the song. She mashed.
she mashed football.
The Super Bowl in.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't love that song because of that. Because it doesn't feel sonically cohesive.
My singular prediction for TS12
feels sonically cohesive, not lyrically cohesive.
Lyrically. My one prediction for TS12.
Mm-hmm.
I think her past 4 albums, not the re-releases. If you look at TTPD, Midnight's, Evermore, Folklore, they are very like lyrical, story heavy and heavy themes. And like I still listen to TTPD. I mean, I'm talking about it like it's fucking scripture, but like I listen to it and I get something new from it. Like it's the depth and the amount of songs and the length and all of it. I have a thought that TS12 is going to be very carefree.
Yeah.
I think much more mainstreamy. I wonder if she's going to go back to like pop. I could see like, I don't think it's going to be
like Lover.
Yeah. We're going to get a me.
Lover.
We're going to get a me. Like, and we're going to be like, oh, like.
Although I do think like some of the worst parts of Lover were because she was trying so hard to make a pop hit and to like really prove that she
could do it
again.
Yeah.
And I think she has a lot less to prove this time, which I hope comes across.
It feels better
on the album.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna be another TTPD. I don't think it's gonna be another Folklore Evermore. I think she's found like a lot of joy now. I think she feels very free now, not only from out of these relationships, but then now owning the masters, having done.
I just think it's such a fascinating case study too. And right, she's like the most unsatisfied person that exists, which I really relate to.
Yeah.
But right, she literally has everything she's ever wanted.
Everything.
And I think that is really fascinating. Like, how is that? Is she going to still be restless and she's going to still need to like put out more music? Is she going to find, I think that is the case. But like, she could just retire and go away.
Yeah.
So like, it's so interesting. The dynamic of, will she ever? Does she want to? I mean, I think Travis is wonderful in that he supports her, and I could see her releasing music but doing a lot less, not going on tour again, or anything like that. But I just think it's a fascinating case study.
Yeah. I'm very
what
grateful.
does a settled, content Taylor Swift look like? Is that possible? What is her next crusade going to be?
Okay, because the two that I always compare, and I know you're going to be like, you're comparing like apples to a 2x4, but hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of look at Adele and Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Adele has the most stunning voice in the world currently. Moves you singing the phone book, like a generational talent,
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't give a flying fuck
Mm-hmm.
to do anything with it, really.
Yeah.
She's had 3 albums total in 10 years.
Yeah.
She's done a tour. She did the Vegas residency. And now she's saying, ooh, it's been too much. I need to go away. Yeah. Don't know when I'm going to come back. Yeah. So I'm thoroughly planning on being in my 40s the next time we hear new music from her.
Yeah.
So you have this person, this incredible talent, no interest, right?
Yeah.
Taylor has a good voice. She doesn't have the best voice in the world.
No, she is clawed and fought.
Yes.
And killed herself to develop the voice she has.
Yeah, to develop the voice that she has. Her gift lies in her songwriting, which there are plenty of artists that just turn to songwriting, pump out a bunch of hits, make a fuck ton of money, and call it a day. Like Ryan Tedder from One Republic. He has literally written every song. And you don't really know about him. He sometimes does stuff with One Republic, but not very much.
Yeah.
And yet Taylor keeps showing up.
She's too big, I think, to write other people's. I think she also wants to sing her own songs.
Right. Much. But I think still she doesn't have to, though.
No, she doesn't have to.
Like I just.
But I wonder if it's not very fulfilling for her.
Yeah,
to write
maybe.
Music and have other people sing it.
Probably, but I think she likes it. I mean, think of Mirrorball. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. We both could be completely wrong, and we're making it way too serious.
I very selfishly want her to have a child so I can hear her music about it.
There it is. I need a motherhood processing album immediately. Yeah,
that's what I would like. But
I okay. I know as women we're not supposed to do this.
Sam, we're gonna have to cut this out, but I agree.
Okay, sorry. You don't know what we're talking about. We're going to talk about this off air, but anyway. Well,
we hope you enjoyed this episode and a lighter podcast from us for the bonus episode of this month.
Yep.
The other thing I was playing around on Substack for people to know, some people are asking for a chat. We want a chat feature on Substack, so we're going to work on that.
Yep.
It will be casual. And if you feel like you're getting too many emails from us, you can now individually choose whether you want bonus episodes and the text post from us, or whether you want like 1 or 2 emails a week, essentially. Or if you like only want Sam's videos and you don't care about the recaps, you can just subscribe to that. Or if you want just the more recaps, bonus episodes, you can just subscribe to Nuance Needed.
Yep.
So if anyone cares, you can check out your settings.
There you go.
As always, we love you. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. We aren't making any money yet from this podcast, so you help us bridge the gap while we try to get big enough to get sponsors.
Some big sponsors. So we're on the way. We're getting there, but it's going to take time.
We appreciate you. And also, as always, if you have suggestions, thoughts, ideas, episode requests, drop them below.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye.